There is a new patch out for Escape from Tarkov, and of course this is one of the biggest quality of life updates that I've seen so far. And there are a ton of things, we're going to get into them. I'm going to showcase them off in the actual game. We also have the patch notes that I can run through, but it's easier to just show you on the actual game, I think, rather than just reading out the patch notes, as it's always more important to do that in my opinion. So, first things first. Probably the biggest thing is that finally we have a search function within your stash. So yes, you are going to be able to type in whatever you want. So we can find our dorms keys. We can see exactly what we've got in the stash. This is probably one of the most exciting things out of everything, to be honest. Like, genuinely trying to find keys is the biggest pain in the backside, and now you're able to find them, as well as find, see if you need stuff for tasks and seeing if you've actually got items that you need to use, etc. You've also got like the filters, so you can have a look at all of the nades that you have in your stash. You've also then got like the buttons at the bottom left, so you can go left and right to see if you've filled out one entire page of stuff. You got all your barter items, so maybe you find that an item is really expensive because of a task. Now you can see if you've got any of those items. If you don't want to just type them in, you can filter these out even more. So this is probably one of the biggest things from this update in particular. It's in the game right now, so you guys can actually take advantage of this. And finally, yes, I mean, I've been waiting for this for the longest time. I'm so happy it's actually in the game. But that isn't it. Obviously, we also had Eyewear. So, for example, you had MPP, the condor glasses, basically. Previously didn't really do a whole lot other than provide like a minuscule amount of armor. Now they actually provide protection against flashbangs. So, for example, if you get flashbanged, you're going to have that. But also, different eyewear and mask will provide flash protection, so it will reduce how much glare you're going to actually see from flashlights, which is probably one of the biggest things. I mean, if you have played Tarkov, especially on the PvP side, you know how annoying it is when someone puts on the sun and puts 3 Clash 2Us on their shotgun or something like that. You literally cannot see anywhere where the person is, so you just have to aim randomly in what you think is the center of mass of where the light source is. This is going to get reduced and has been in the game. So depending on what actual mask you're using, what kind of eyewear you actually have, you can reduce the glare dependent on what the eye protection is, I would assume, against flashbang. So the higher that is, the more likely it's going to reduce the glare. So aviator glasses, 25%. And so, yeah, you're going to see these maybe going up in price. Maybe people using them on PVE. I'm not entirely sure that is going to be the case, but it's something to note within the game as well. There's also an in-game raid time when pressing the O key by default, so it will automatically be there. You've also then got the ability to convert currency if not having enough when you try and purchase something. So, I mean, for me, it's kind of difficult to showcase this off because we've got, I don't think anything costs more than what we actually have available. But essentially, say you wanted to buy something in euros, it would automatically convert those like rubles or your dollars into euros, and therefore you would just automatically pay for it, and so you're able to do that. They've also added the highlighting of attachments that are available for purchase from traders on the weapon build screen. So if we take, for example, this AK and we go into the build, we can see that these you have the little mark down here. And so the green, I believe is available from traders, and the red is not available from traders. So you can see exactly what you can buy from the traders, which is also really nice. So this is something that has been useful, very nice quality of life to see what you're going to have to buy versus what you can actually get. And maybe you're just trying to see about maybe looking at some stuff that you might be able to farm within the raid. So if you're trying to target farm something that you need to kind of get, but you don't want to purchase in the game, really, really nice. And then the ability to pin tasks at the top list of the task screen. So it's the kind of overall task screen. So you know where you get everything. On the left hand side, you can see that there is a pin. So you can see if we pick Art of Explosion, for example, or, you know, just pick a random one like Private Club, we can go up here and we can see exactly what we've got pinned if we're trying to do specific stuff. This is going to be really useful if you're trying to go for Kappa. So really nice to be able to pinpoint exactly what tasks you are requiring to go through task lines. Much easier than previously. So I think that that is something very, very useful. And of course, you can filter out some of the tasks that you just don't want to do or don't lead anywhere. So you could just basically pin all tasks that lead somewhere that is you actually want to do. And then anything else is just left at the bottom. And then you can, of course, filter by what map they are. So let me just double check. If we pin a load of tasks and we do it by location, yep, they do also filter by location separately from like the ones down below. So you'll be able to see which ones are available on wood, which ones are available in customs. You can also, you know, do whatever you want with that. So we can just unpin those. So there, that is something you can do. And of course you can see the status as well, and progress if you wanted to do ones that are very, very close. So as you can see, very close to completing special equipment, which is nice. But that is one extra bit of quality of life. This is genuinely a massive, massive quality of life. We also then have a warning when attempting to start a raid with a task inventory, a task item in your inventory. So essentially, if we go to the tasks, on the right hand side, you know, sometimes you'll actually have a task item that you've picked out of a raid, but you don't realize you've got it in there. And previously, when you went into a raid, it would not tell you that you've got a task inventory within there. So this is something that is really, really interesting. And of course, it's just going to pop up with a warning. This was something that was mentioned on the Tarkov community website. So someone suggested it on the Tarkov community .dev website that you can actually post whatever suggestion that you want. And therefore the devs actually looked at it and went, yeah, that's a great idea. And it's in the game now, much like we saw with some of the other things, like, for example, being able to put paracord in your special slots. That was actually a suggestion from a player. And various different other things as well. As you can see, we've also got where the 100% boss spawn is at the moment in time. So you can see on factory, we've got a little red icon telling you that Tagilla is 100% right now. As of the recording of this video, it will change depending on when you watch this, if you watch it in the future. But that's also something extra that I did notice. And then we've also got rebalanced the sensitivity and zooming of optical sights. So for example, when you do use the variable zoom, so where you can actually zoom in slowly and change the zoom, it's a bit more like balanced, I guess, so that it works better. And then improve the usability of specific optical and thermal sights. So this is, for example, when using the FLIR, it just is better performance. And, you know, sometimes it would just be a bit janky to use those sorts of sites. So definitely usable in PvE, especially when you're trying to farm in nighttime raids. So that should definitely help you guys out. There's also Nate protection for the Redux series body armor. Transitions to other locations will now count for all tasks that require you to survive an extract. Previously, when you had a task and you just needed to survive an extract. So let's try. Hopefully we've got one here. I have no idea. But anyway, when you have to extract from a task after you've completed a set objective and you have to survive, now you can use transits as well as actual extracts, and it will complete the task there and then. Even if you go on to the next map and, you know, get taken out, for example, previously that wouldn't happen until you actually extract from a raid specifically, and then the task would complete. Now you're going to be able to complete the task when you transit. Something definitely useful for you, those of you who are just spamming out quests. And then rebalance the operation of the RSH-G2 rocket launcher. So this is probably going to get a little bit of a nerf, because on PvP, it was definitely used as a bit of a ratting technique by quite a few people. So yeah, that is definitely going to be a helpful thing. And then alongside that, we have had some AI changes as well. One of the biggest ones, probably for those of you, is that there were several issues in which the goons would appear on multiple locations at the exact same time. This was definitely something I found, whereby I could go on customs, then I could go on woods, I can then move over to lighthouse, and they would all spawn at the exact same time. I don't know if this was like a local server issue or a actual BSG server issue, but it always seemed that when I was playing on local, it didn't really matter which map I was playing, the goons would be on there if they do actually spawn. So yeah, now they've actually fixed it so that they will only spawn at one specific time on one map, if that makes sense. So like if they are on a rotation, which they do, so they move between the maps on, I believe, like 4-hour schedules or 3-hour schedules, can't quite remember exactly what it is, but you can use Tarkov tracker to actually see what location the goons are actually at, so you can avoid the map if you don't want to see them, or if you're farming them, you'll know exactly what map they're on. Tarkov tracker, goons tracker, if you just type it into Google, you'll find it. So yeah, that is definitely helpful for the goons. And then there's also issues where they had boss guards and PMC bots were friendly to each other, so they weren't actually fighting each other. This been resolved, hopefully. So there was issues with that. So definitely, if you observe that, I didn't see too much of that, but I have no idea. I mean, it depends, I guess, on, you know, how often you're seeing bosses and PMCs together. You know, it is what it is, but that has been solved. And then fixed this specific situation in which bots would tilt their weapons upwards for no reason. So yeah, maybe this will make bots slightly better now compared to previously, but there you go. Fixed the causes for bots appearing in the air or in the ground, so that is always a bonus when they don't spawn in the ground or in the air. So yeah, they fixed several issues where bots could walk downstairs or on other uneven surfaces faster than usual, so they had like increased movement speed as to what an actual player would have. So that is definitely going to be helpful. And then PMC bots will now try to avoid areas where the location bosses initially spawn and are less likely to engage in combat with the actual bosses, allowing you as a player to be able to farm them. This was specifically very annoying on, for example, Sturman, because he has no body armor, and against a PMC, obviously the PMCs can just hit him a few times and he's gone, and by the time you reach there, the PMCs are already automatically taken him out, and then you can't even get him, especially when it's like a 30% spawn chance for Sturman to even appear. If PMCs spawn right next to him, you know, he can be taken out before you have any chance at even getting close to being where he is. And then, you know, you've got to run another 3 raids on average to be able to get him to show again. And then obviously it can happen again. And so, yeah, that is definitely a big bonus for that. So initially they will essentially not actually, or they're less likely to engage. So it may still happen, but it is less likely to actually happen. So I think that is definitely a bonus. And then improve the interaction of bots with doors as well. So bots, there was a weird issue whereby bots would essentially go and they'd like walk up to a door and they'd stand there for ages with their like weapon through the door, and it would be really easy to know that they're coming through the door. So yeah, that is definitely something that is useful bonus to actually have into the game finally. And then there has also been some audio improvements. There were a load of audio improvements. I'm not going to go through all of them. We all know what Tarkov's audio is like, whether or not it's actually useful. I haven't played enough to be able to actually tell you whether there is a general feeling of it feeling better, but the audio engine systems and its individual subsystems has been significantly expanded to provide a more immersive Escape from Tarkov experience. That's what they've said. The current version has gone through several stages of testing, however it's not final, so you may encounter unexpected audio behavior in various different situations. So expect, if you're in a building, to hear rain outside again, maybe. This stage is necessary to collect feedback and do more tests on a diverse variety of players' hardware and software. So obviously they've got to try and do the engine that is based on a wide array of PC. It's much easier on something like a console, I would assume, because you've got, you know, 2 consoles, like, or 4, or, you know, depending on how many you support. Whereas on PC, there is a wide array of different components that can all be adjusted together, whereas like, you know, you buy a console, every console has the specific stuff within that console. Whereas, you know, you might have different amounts of RAM versus CPU versus motherboard versus graphics card versus, you know, software that may be on your computer that might change certain things, operating systems, this sort of stuff, which can all interfere with how the engine works. So I assume it can be pretty annoying to actually bug test. So yeah, I guess that there's that, but they've improved the sound processing between the listener and the source when the source was behind obstacles, uneven terrain, rocks, vehicles, crates, and other environmental elements. So I assume it would like kind of block out noise dependent on if they're behind a rock versus on the other side of the map. Hopefully they've sorted the lighthouse bug where if a scav walks into a mine, you hear the ringing in your own ears, which is like the worst thing about playing lighthouse, is that if a scav walks into a mine, you hear the like horrible dinging, ringing noise, like you've got tinnitus. So hopefully they've actually sorted that one out. But they've reduced the loudness of bushes in first and third person, fixed the causes of the missing announcer warnings upon using the interactive buttons in the lab, and then improve the sound occlusion on various locations to enhance the detail as well. And then as another final bit, they've changed the in-game season to summer. So obviously we're on autumn, and no, not autumn. What is it? Spring. Either way, it's now summer. And then they've implemented changes to optimize the performance in various parts of reserve. So some reserve optimization, much like they said on the roadmap that they would be doing. So that is kind of everything. There has been a load of fixes with various different stuff, but I'm not going to go through every single one of those. I think you guys can probably tell they're usually things that are just like visual bugs or like clipping through walls or like stuff like that. But there is some like bug fixes for like crafts and stuff that weren't working as intended. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. This is definitely one of the biggest things, and I am going to be in love with the search feature. I genuinely, like even finding mags, like, oh, it's going to be so much nicer to be able to actually find what you have in your stash now and not having to buy multiple of the exact same thing because you have to. So yeah, you can see exactly what you got. Really, really happy with this one. Definitely a big thing for anyone that actually plays Tarkov on the regular. It is very, very nice. And of course, as you move towards 1.0 release at the end of the year, probably, unless they delay it and it's next year. But I would be assuming it'd be like December. They've got a wipe that they're going to do before the release of 1.0, probably themed around 1.0 and the actual release of the terminal map. Which will be coming. But yeah, really, really excited to see what is coming next. And of course, I'll be here waiting and playing and showcasing gameplay of various different things. And soon we'll have a little guide on factory and why you actually want to farm Tagilla. So stay tuned for tomorrow's video where we're going to cover that one. Because there is a ludicrous money-making method that you can do with this. And you don't even have to take out Tagilla. But with factory, having the boss spawns at 100%, is just a fun time to actually play. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.